Don't you want to learn to be a better lover? The Apostle Peter, in the very last letter that he wrote shortly before his death, tells us how to be better lovers. He describes a stairway to love in 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 7. I'm glad you've joined us for our Bible study today. Let's get right into the text. Peter wrote, "For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, and steadfastness with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love." My name is John McKeel, and I've just recently completed a book entitled Stairway to Love. It describes what we're talking about today. In this study, we're going to be looking at faith, the very first step. It's the important one because what we believe affects what we do, how we act, and everything else. It becomes the foundation for all that follows. And if we look carefully at Peter's instructions, we can see that there are 8 steps to Christian love. It begins with the first step of faith, what we believe. And what we believe affects what we do. And so the second step is excellence in all that we do. And that leads to knowledge, or another translation would be understanding of what life is about and gives us a roadmap to the future. But that's going to involve self-control, what many find is the most difficult of the steps on the pathway to love. From self-control, we move to endurance. Christians, and love in particular, never gives up. It goes the distance. It not only endures patiently, but it thrives in the face of adversity. This leads us then to godliness, which means to stand in awe of the Almighty Lord, to learn about God's love. And as we develop a relationship with God, that leads us to a relationship with one another, or what the New Testament calls brotherly love, or friendship. But that's not the end of the road. There's a love that is even greater than friendship. It's called agape. That's the Greek word for Christian love. And it's different from every other kind of love that you've heard about, and is the focus of this series of classes. When we turn to the New Testament, the Apostle Paul tells his young protege Timothy the goal of this command, that is, all Christian instruction, all the sermons, all the classes, all that we do, is love, which comes from a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5. And the Hebrew writer says, without faith it is impossible to please him. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. We all want to be better lovers. And so let's lay that foundation right now. What is faith, and why is it so important to love? Well, there are many different kinds of faith. Do you remember the story of Peter Pan? He's the little boy who never grew up. Written in the early 1900s, J.M. Barrie wrote a book and a play that was extremely popular. And you remember all Peter Pan had to do. He said the secret to flight was just to believe it. I can fly, I can fly, I can fly, and he did. Well, the problem with that is the children who watched the play, it was very popular, went home and tried to jump off of their beds and fly. And many of them ended up in the emergency room getting cast for broken bones. And so Barrie had to change his story in the next edition. In addition to believing that you can fly, now it required fairy dust, and that prevented the trips to the emergency room. But Peter Pan faith is not Christian faith. We don't just believe. It's not just wishful thinking. There's something more to it. There's substance. So that leads us to monkey bar faith. Now, you remember the monkey bars on the playground? They were great. The horizontal ladder, I think, is the technical name for it. And you grab one rung and you swing and you grab the next one and you swing and you grab the next one. But you never let go of the first one until you have hold of the second one. Now, what kind of faith is that? That doesn't step very far away. And so I think that's not Christian love either. We step out farther. There's a third kind of faith that I call sailor's faith. What would cause a man in a tiny boat to set sail from a safe harbor out into the deep blue ocean? I don't know if you've been out there before, but I have. And when the horizon disappears, when the land is gone and all you see is deep blue water, 360 degrees, it can be a frightening experience. But the sailor has faith because he has his map and he has his compass. He believes that there's land out there, that people have been there and have left instructions for him. And so he looks at that chart carefully, he plots his course, and then he steers by his faithful compass. And it's a wonderful, amazing, exciting time when one day, as you're sailing, the horizon shows land. That island that you've dreamed about, that exotic destination, finally begins to appear, and you're there. It's faith that took us there. And so it is that Christians believe that this life is just a blue ocean. There's something over the horizon. And so we launch out, not like Peter Pan, not like monkey bar faith, but by sailor's faith, leaving behind the safety of the shore and sailing over the horizon. We experience an amazing life. But there are also different things that we believe. There are degrees of faith. For example, some things, frankly, don't matter. I believe that there are two mountains that are taller than Mount Everest. Mount Everest is 29,029 feet high, but Chimborazo in Ecuador is 20,000 feet higher than Mount Everest. What's the difference? Remember, our world is not a perfect sphere. It bulges out at the horizon. Chimborazo's on the horizon. And so if you measure from base to summit, not from sea level, but from the center of the earth to the tip of the mountain, Chimborazo is much higher than Mount Everest is. Or I believe in Hawaii, Mauna Kea is an island, but it's actually a mountain that goes down. It's over 30,000 feet high from the bottom of the seafloor to the top of the island. Now, having believed all of that, what difference does it make? Not a lot. I mean, I can believe a lot of things, but they don't really affect my life or my love or the things that I do. On the other hand, actions are determined based on beliefs. You're not going to drive your car across a rickety old bridge if you don't believe that the bridge is going to hold the weight of your vehicle. You're not going to go to a doctor and let him cut on you and provide you with radiation and all kinds of pills that make you sick unless you believe that the doctor has your best interest at heart. Christians have a belief that becomes the foundation for everything that they do. It's that sailor's faith that we were talking about. It's the faith, well, the Hebrew writer says, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now, the word used here, assurance, in Greek means reality. Our faith is the reality of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Faith gives substance to hope. But what is the substance behind our belief? You see, Christianity is based on truth. It's not a matter of legends. It's not a matter of myths. Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." Now, we don't have time in this short series of lessons to look at apologetics. Apologetics doesn't mean I'm sorry. Apologetics is a defense of why we believe what we believe. And I'm just going to leave you with three arguments today on what we believe and why we believe. So let's talk about the starry heavens above. I believe that the creation tells us that there's a creator. It's an amazing world out there. Immanuel Kant, in his philosophy, talked about the fact that there are two reasons for belief. I believe that there are three. He said his first one was the starry heavens above. If we look out into the universe and it goes on and on and on forever, did it just happen? Was there a boom and it just appeared? Or is there something more to that? I think that there is. And so I'm going to ask you to try and experiment at home. I'd like you to grab 10 pennies. And I've got my 10 pennies all laid out here. And on those pennies, I'd like you to take your pen, and I would like you to number those pennies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got that? All right. Let's, you've numbered your pennies. Now let's take those pennies, and I'm going to pour them in to an empty coffee cup. There we are. Can you hear them? We've got 10 pennies inside there. Now, what are the odds? I've got 10 pennies numbered 1 through 10. What are the odds of my reaching in and pulling out penny number 1? Can you see it? All right, now I can't see it. I'm going to reach in there, and you would say the odds are 1 in 10. They're 10 pennies, and so, well, I've pulled out number 3. Well, let's put it back in there. Let's imagine, though, that I pulled out penny number 1. Odds are 1 in 10. What about the odds of my pulling out number 1 first and number 2 second? I'll reach in and pull out a number. Well, this time I pulled out penny number 6. The odds of that, according to mathematicians, are 1 in 10. What about reaching in and pulling out penny number 1, putting it back in the cup, pulling out penny number 2, and putting it back in the cup, and then pulling out penny number 3. 1, 2, 3. Hey, I actually did. Can you see it? That's penny number 3. I did it that time. So what are the odds of pulling out penny number 1 on the first try, put it back in the cup, pulling out penny number 2 on the second try, that's 1 in 100, penny number 3 on the third try, 1, 2, 3, the odds are 1 in 1,000. All right, let's shake them all up. Reach in. What are the odds of my pulling out penny number 1, penny number 2, penny number 3, putting them all back in each time, but pulling out consecutively numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, kids, you've been at home doing math classes. What do you think? What are the odds are? Well, the answer is 1 in 10 billion. Even the lottery numbers are better than that, and we all know that the lottery is a tax on people who aren't good at math. 1 in 10 billion. And that's just for pulling pennies out of a cup. What are the odds are of everything working out just right and making a pancreas or an eyeball or even a nose? The odds are just too great. I can't leave that up to chance. I believe there's an intelligence behind the design. I believe that the creation points out that there's a creator, but there's something more. I think that the second argument for the existence of God is the moral law within. Where did that sense of right and wrong come from? Was it just herd instinct that everybody decides what the rules are? Well, there are some laws that are like that. Should we drive on the left side of the road or the right side of the road? That's arbitrary. Can you shoot a bird while it's sitting in your field, or must it be airborne before you can shoot it to death? Well, that's just convention. But the morals that are in our heart are something completely different. The morals in our heart, the sense of right and wrong. Nobody has to tell you that it is wrong to murder, lie, cheat, steal. Those are things that come from within. They're hardwired into our DNA. Where did that come from? It didn't come from Congress. I believe that that's evidence for God. And so Immanuel Kant again said that there are two reasons why he believed in the existence of God. One, the starry heavens above, and two, the moral law within. Now, I believe that there is a third reason, an amazing reason. If we go to Jerusalem today, they will show you the tomb of Christ, and it's an unusual tomb, not because of its architecture or anything else like that, but the fact that it's the tomb of Jesus and it's empty. And you might say, well, what happened to the body? Did it decay over 2,000 years and there's only dust left? No, the answer to that, the body is absent. Why is the body absent? Did somebody steal the body? Did the disciples forget where the body was? No, I think the best explanation for the tomb of Christ being empty is that he's not there. Jesus was resurrected. Now remember, there's a difference between resurrection and resuscitation. Resurrection says that a person is alive, never to die again. It's not like when you flatline and they hit you with the paddles and you spark back to life. No, because eventually you're going to die. That's resuscitation. Resurrection, though, says there's something more. I believe that. And I think that the evidence is awfully strong and provides us with a foundation for faith, the very first step on the path to life. The Hebrew writer again says, without faith, it is impossible to please him. I believe. Do you?